everyone, and welcome. Today, we're jumping headfirst into one of the most intense stories in the entire Bible, Korah's rebellion against Moses and Aaron. I mean, this is a high-stakes drama about power, jealousy, and some truly terrifying divine judgment. It's an incredible story, so let's get right into it. So, this whole story, it really boils down to one big, timeless question, doesn't it? What happens when the people in charge aren't just questioned, but when there's an active, hostile takeover attempt by those who think they should be in power? And this was the central accusation, the challenge they threw right in the faces of Moses and Aaron. This wasn't some quiet grumbling in the background. Oh no, this was a public showdown, a direct challenge to their authority in front of everyone. Okay, so a rebellion like this doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. It needs leaders, it needs followers, and it needs a cause, or in this case, a couple of causes. Let's break down how this whole thing got started. All right, let's meet the players on the field. You've got the established leadership, Moses, the political guide, and his brother Aaron, the high priest. And on the other side, you have the challengers. First, Korah, who is actually their cousin. Then you have Dathan and Abiram, two big shots from the tribe of Reuben. And get this, they've convinced 250 other respected leaders to join them. This was a serious, well-organized threat. What's really interesting here is that this rebellion had two different engines driving it. You had Korah's group, the Levites. Their beef was religious. Korah felt his duties at the tabernacle were beneath him, and he was deeply jealous of his cousin Aaron's top job as high priest. He wanted that power. Then you had Dathan and Abiram's crew, the Reubenites. Theirs was a political power grab. They were from the tribe of the firstborn son, Reuben, and they felt they had the right to lead, accusing Moses of being a failed leader who just stranded them in the desert. So, how does Moses react to all this? Well, it's pretty amazing. He doesn't get into a shouting match. He literally falls on his face before God. Then he gets up and puts the challenge right back on them. He proposes a test. He says, okay, tomorrow morning, you all bring your sacred incense burners, your censers, and we'll see who God chooses. He's basically saying, you think I'm the one in charge? Let's let God himself settle this. And this is where the story pivots. The challenge has been accepted, the sides are drawn, and now we're about to see the divine response. And believe me, it is absolutely terrifying. So as things are about to go down, God's glory appears, and his anger is burning against the entire community that got swept up in this. But watch what Moses and Aaron do. They immediately fall on their faces and plead for the people, asking God to punish the ringleaders, not everyone. It shows their true character as leaders, even in the middle of a coup. But even with their plea, judgment was coming for the core rebels. There was no getting around it. Moses warns everyone, get away. Get away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, because what was about to happen was something totally new, something the world had never seen. And then it happens. The ground literally splits open right under their feet. It swallows the three main leaders, Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, along with their families and all their belongings. They go down alive into the pit, and the earth closes over them. Just gone. An absolutely shocking end to their rebellion. But it wasn't over. Not even close. At that very moment, a fire blazes out from the Lord and instantly consumes the 250 leaders who had sided with Korah, the very same men who were standing there wrongly offering incense with their censers. Okay, so what about those 250 bronze censers? They can't just be tossed aside. Because they were presented before God, they're now considered consecrated. They're holy. So God gives this instruction: gather them up, hammer them into flat plates, and use them to cover the altar. They're going to serve as a permanent, very visible warning for everyone. Now, here's the part of the story that is just mind-boggling. You would think after seeing the ground open up and fire fall from the sky, you'd think the argument was settled, right? But no. The very next morning, the whole community starts grumbling again, this time blaming Moses and Aaron for all the deaths. You just have to ask why. Well, the source material gives us a pretty powerful explanation. This bizarre reaction shows just how deep their disbelief went. They were so blinded by their own narrative and their own anger that they couldn't see God's hand in any of it. It was easier to just blame the leaders they could see, Moses and Aaron. And this final act of defiance unleashes one more horrifying judgment. A deadly plague breaks out and just rips through the camp. Aaron has to literally run with his censer to make atonement for the people to stand between the living and the dead. But before he can stop it, 14,700 more people are dead. After all of that death, all of that rebellion, God decides to provide one last miraculous and completely undeniable sign to settle the question of leadership once and for all.
The plan God lays out is simple but brilliant. He tells Moses, get a staff, just a dead branch, from the leader of each of the 12 tribes. Write their name on it. Write Aaron's name on the staff for the tribe of Levi. Then take all 12 staffs and place them in the holy tabernacle overnight.
And the next morning, the result is just, wow, it's beyond question. 11 of the staffs are still just dead sticks. But Aaron's staff, it has come to life. And it didn't just sprout a few leaves. It has budded, it has blossomed with flowers, and it has produced fully ripened almonds. All in one night.
This living staff was the ultimate proof, the final word from God. And so it was commanded to be kept right there inside the Ark of the Covenant itself, as a permanent sign to put an end to all this grumbling and rebellion for good. So what do we take away from this incredibly intense story? I mean, what are the big lessons here? The source material really draws out some crucial points from this whole ordeal. So if you zoom out, you see this tragic pattern emerge. It all starts with jealousy and ambition, people wanting power they don't have. That ambition is fueled by a deep disbelief that makes them ignore even the clearest signs from God. The consequences are, as we saw, absolutely devastating, showing how serious it is to challenge God's chosen leaders. Ultimately, the whole story, with the altar covering and the budding staff, becomes this permanent memorial about discerning God's will instead of just chasing our own ambition. And after that final miracle of the staff, the light bulb finally goes on for the people. Their perspective totally shifts. They cry out in fear, but this time they finally understand that the terrifying judgments they'd seen weren't the work of Moses. This was all from God. And that leaves us with one final, very powerful question, one that's just as relevant today as it was thousands of years ago. In our own lives, in our communities, how do we tell the difference between true, authentic leadership and the kind of destructive, self-serving ambition that just wants power for its own sake?